Okay, first memory of when we amalgamated was our first training session over at the Nambour Showgrounds here. Our A-grade coach at the time was Mr. Ray Laird, who was an ex-international, and in one corner were the South players, in another corner were the All Whites players, and then the other guys that they'd signed in, a few Marichinor blokes, so we were all over the shop. And all I remember was Lairdy going, okay, you know Hopers. I won't say what he said. He said, let's get together because this is the last time we do this. So then we gelled like that, and the competition for spots and training was just astronomical. Like we're talking 80, 90 players for 3 grades, and it was just, everything was a competition. Road runs, who could get in first, and so trying to beat each other to get to the spots.
When we talked about amalgamation, one of the things high on our priorities was not only the union of both clubs, but what jersey are we going to wear. We had a competition, and Milton Bristow, who was on our board at that stage, was instrumental in that competition, or organising it, and the way in which it came about was part of a competition, but it does mean a lot because it's Nambour, but also it's the amalgamation of the two sides, and it made it easy for us to have a transparency and an acceptance that the All Whites jersey had gone, the South jersey had gone, and here was the new colours, so we're able to get on with life quickly.
First memory of Nambour merging was 1985. In 84 I was coaching Marichinor reserve grade, and the Crushers were forming in 85, and a bloke called Steve Molyneux was playing for Marichinor in 84, and they decided to come up and play for the Crushers because the Crushers had appointed Ray Laird, an ex-international, as coach. So I finished coaching Marichinor that year, and I was not going to coach anymore because I was aiming to coach an A-grade side, which I didn't get at Marichinor. So I went into semi-retirement, and the Crushers rang up and said they wanted a reserve grade coach, so I started in 85 coaching in reserve grade. Ray Laird was the A-grade coach.
But early memories would include things like, how was it going to work? South and All Whites, traditional rivals. How was someone going to bring, or how was a new club going to bring both of those entities together? Well, that happened. They appointed the right coach. We had 2 great driving forces in Bertie Desham and Peter Boyce from the respective clubs, and made it work.
So the merge actually happened before I started playing at Nambour, but when I came into it, I had a lot of influences from Souths. So yeah, a lot of my A-grade coaches and players, they sort of filled me in on what the merge is all about and how passionate they were all about their former team. So.
My earliest memory of the Nambour Crushers was actually being here on this site when the clubhouse was being built. I remember hanging around one end, vivid memory, red bricks getting laid before it all got rendered. So yeah, been around the club for a while.
Souths or All Whites, eh? Definitely All Whites. Some might argue differently. I did play under 16s for Souths, but I did play under 18s, and my first 2 A-grade seasons at the great All Whites in 83 and 84, leading into the merge.
I was a South player, and I was pretty proud of that, and as a lot of people, everybody was proud of their club. The rivalry was just second to none really, but we had a lot of fun after the games and whatever as well, and obviously that meant we had a pub each to go to, no clubhouse, and our pub was the Royal George. I love the Royal George. It was the greatest place ever to turn up for a beer, but over the time, obviously had a few beers at the club hotel, and the beer tastes just good over there in the end.
I was born in Nambour, and I played for All Whites in a premiership side in 1969, which is on the wall there somewhere. And I played for South in the grand final in 1967. So I had a good history with both clubs. So I come back home to coach.
I was a South player. That was our whole family. My dad was manager of South, and Graham and Brian both played for South, my brothers, so yeah, we sort of had a bit of a adversary thing against All Whites, so say no more.
I reckon it's a dead heat between the Royal George and the Club Hotel, because we had some pretty good times usually on a Monday, a mad Monday. And probably why they were so good is they were equal distance to the train track. So when the trains came through, everyone could just down their beers straight out.
I can't say it was my favourite place, but we did get kicked out of both pubs. 2003 Grand Final Mad Monday. I would have to say the George because they let us stay there the longest out of both. So I'll go the George.
As a South player, there's only one pub to drink at, and that was the Royal George Hotel.
They were both really good places. I'm pretty happy with anywhere that has a cold beer. So, but I do remember one day after we won, I think it was our first grand final in 2003, and half of us were in one and half of us were in the other, and we had one of the best food fights I've ever seen in my life across the street. It was bloody hilarious. I would say I've played with some very good halfbacks, Benny Smith, James Ward and the like, but I would say the best, two second rowers, and they're very hard to split, but I would say the most talented footballer and the guy that should have gone on was Ben's older brother Aaron. He used to hit like a freight train. He was a 5'8", trapped in a second rower's body, and he had the skills of a 5'8". He was unbelievable. His eyes used to go on the back of his head, and yeah, it was fun to be around. So
There's guys I had the joy of playing with that just didn't have to try hard. They made everything look easy. You know, I could talk about your Peter Ovenses back in the late 80s. Ben Smith, my last year, 2003. Two fellas that just are annoying because they just make the impossible look easy. You know, as a halfback myself, the work that the forwards did, or can still do for teams, never went unnoticed for me because it laid the platform for everything else. You know, to be able to play with front rowers like Cordia in the early days, you know, having a Aaron Smith in your forward pack in my last year was just, you know, outstanding. And then you talk about the blokes that pound for pound were awesome. Kind of like Mal Arbuthnot, Arbo comes to mind, 1987, playing back row at about 80 kilos and cutting people in half. There was two people that had the greatest influence on my footy career. One was my dad, and the other was a fellow I did get to play with, and it was mainly due to the leadership he taught me and the way he led on the field and at training that made him stick in my mind as someone that I just wanted to play footy with every week for the rest of my career, and that's front rower by the name of Steve Molyneux. He was the father of Rowan Molyneux, who ended up leading the 2003 side to a premiership, but I was also fortunate to play in.
Three people, I can't name one, James Ward, Steve Molyneux and Graham Allen.
The ones that probably stand out would be Dave Cordwell, which is one of my front row mates, and Graham Allen, which has been at Nambour forever.
I think most of all, first of all, it's when you pull the jersey on, and that counts. And if you are going to pull it on, well, you've got to do something about it. It's not just wearing it and going through the motions. So ultimately, it's got Nambour written on it somewhere, and that's what it means to me, is that you're representing the area, the people of the area, and you can't take that lightly every time you pull it on. It's a uniform, needs to be respected. If you haven't gave your all every time you've gone out onto the football field, well, you've let not more than yourself down. You let the town, the area, supporters, the administrators, everybody who's involved on game day, you've let them down, and all they're asking for is your best effort, and you need to give it every time, or just don't put it on. But as far as being a crush, I think that's what inspires me, or it means so much to be a crusher, is that I do know I'm representing that area. I do know I'm representing the people, the businesses and the sponsors, and And that's the way I hope I played accordingly, and I hope that's the way everybody thinks of it.
What does it mean to be a crusher? That's not all that difficult. I mean, to me, the sport, our sport, rugby league, it became a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. And when it becomes a lifestyle and something you love as much as I did, you love being around the people, you know, it really just, that's exactly what it means. It becomes your lifestyle, and it's almost your everything aside from your family. And, you know, your family's incorporated into that lifestyle, and yeah, it's just a wonderful way to spend time with good people.
Colours of Crushers, I first started playing when I was 16, came into a very successful side. Putting on the jersey for the first time felt a bit weird for me because I came from a different club, but once I put on the green and red from the Crushers, I instantly felt at home. So the club made me feel welcome, and I've been here now for 30 years, and yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, heaps of memories of this place. I was pretty fortunate coming through the juniors and even the seniors that we won some comps. So highlights, obviously, when I was under 14s, we won our first President's Cup and Grand Final. Under 19s, we won a comp. 2003, that A-grade premiership that sort of broke our drought was pretty special as well. But it's also just the million memories of being here, kicking the footy with your mates, and you know, coming up after training. Dad's having a few beers. I'd usually get a Coke and a pack of Doritos or something like that. So, yeah, pretty fond memories of this place.
Our best memory was, I think it's a given. Your mates you make along the way, but there was one night here in I'm not quite sure, it was when the Bronco Colts played in this competition, and we were the only team to beat them here. They had the likes of Willie Kahn, Paul Hoff, Alan Cann playing, so yeah, that was a pretty good night.
I've had a lot of great memories here at Crushers. The 3 grand final wins were definitely up there. Captaining the Crushers for many years is another great highlight. But probably the one that I go back to would have to be, again, 2003 Mad Monday. The stories from that day, the things that we got up to, how blokes didn't get arrested on that day still amaze me to this day. So that would be my best memory from Nambour.
Best memories playing, obviously playing 19s and then A-grade and winning a few premierships. 2003 definitely stands out. Being the first one, the game against Noosa over at the showgrounds, you know, that crowd that day, and you know, just sort of breaking that drought was amazing. And obviously knowing the history of it all. So yeah, that day playing wise was just, yeah, that was phenomenal.
Best memories, premierships. You can't go past premierships. Like, you know, certainly some great memories off the field, like Mad Mondays and trips away, but we won't go there right now. But best on-field memories, 87 and 88. 87 was our first premiership. 88 was our second, and the third premiership, which was the club's third premiership and also happened to be mine, was 2003.
Best memory would be the 2005 grand final. I was involved in the team, so special memories here, and a great bunch of guys and a great coach, Ian Stones.
I think there are lots of G-rated stories, lots of good times, lots of funny times, but I think, and it may not be seen as necessarily all that funny, but when we started the club, we also had to get a team song. And I can remember being in the old showgrounds, in a dressing room there with about 4 or 5 of us, putting ditties together and putting together what is still the team song, with some colourful language sometimes, other times not so colourful. But it ultimately became the team song, and it's still a team song. And I can tell you that making that team song, there was lots of fun, but also lots of, let's put it this way, joyous beverages being consumed to arrive at the Crushers song, and it's stood the test of time.
I might have mentioned earlier that we had a handful of Maroochydore players that come to play for the club, and after having a few beers at the at the club hotel on Tuesday night, and then the Royal George on Thursday night, because we used to alternate in the early days. These boys would then take off home with a roadie and all in the one car mostly, and they would get to Bly and see how many laps of the roundabout they could do before a car turned up or the police, but without getting caught. And I don't know what the record was, but I knew they spent a lot of time on that roundabout at Bly before they made it home. It was always a pretty big laugh. But in any case, I think that that was a funny story, and there's about a trillion others.
There might be a bit of a pattern happening here, but this would be from another Mad Monday. My best mate had a brand new car, decided to take it out on the fields, and after a few donuts on the bottom field, the car ended up in the creek head first, which we had to get a tow truck out for. That was definitely one of the funniest moments here.
Oh, well, the person uses the most tape, well, I used most tape when he was playing reserve for Nambour, would have been Brad Beatson.
The bloke who's used the most strapping tape in my time here has been Skinny Mawinny, and his uses on, we put 2 ankles, 2 knees, 2 shoulders, 2 wrists and an elbow. Used so much tape it was ridiculous.
40 years of Crushers football. Speaking on behalf of the current board, I'd like to thank everyone for their services, commitment and being part of Crushers over the last 40 years, building our culture and extending our history. I'd like to wish you all the best moving forward in season 2025.